Venezuela is accusing the United States of piracy and planning to plunder its energy resources after Washington seized an oil tanker off the Venezuelan coast. The move is another major escalation in tensions between the two countries and comes as the U.S. has been building up its military presence in the region.
This is the moment the US military and Coast Guard seized a large oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. Washington says the vessel is carrying sanctioned oil, and Trump has suggested the confiscated cargo will not be returned.
As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. I guess so. We're going to keep the
US has been very active in the Caribbean in recent weeks, building up its military presence and targeting what it calls narco-terrorist boats in the region. More than 20 vessels have been destroyed, with at least 87 people killed. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has labelled America's aggression a plot to overthrow him and control his country's oil. At a song and dance rally on Wednesday, albeit possibly not yet aware of the tanker's seizure, he looked to project an unruffled stance.
Don't worry, be happy. La, 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 la.
We say no to interventionism, no to plans for destabilization and regime change. The US government should focus on governing its own country.
Earlier Wednesday, Maduro's main rival, Maria Corina Machado, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, accepted by her daughter in Oslo. Maduro later branded her a criminal fascist Nazi and condemned the Nobel Committee's decision. A day of high drama in a period of mounting tensions between the US and Venezuela.
Let's get more from Jesus Renzullo. He's with the GIGA Institute for Latin America Studies and based here in Berlin. Jesus, welcome to DW. Now, the U.S. says it was executing a seizure warrant on an already sanctioned oil tanker. Venezuela, on the other hand, calls it piracy. How much do you expect this move to escalate tensions between the two countries?
Thank you so much for having me. Let's start to say that the boat was sanctioned. And in fact, it was part of the shadow fleet of the Venezuelan government that it was bound probably to Cuba. This is an escalation. It is completely a change in the game of how the US had been playing, since most of the attacks have been to non-known boats that were allegedly for narco-traffic, and now we're talking about Venezuelan-bound boats. Nevertheless, this is not unprecedented. Sanctioned vessels and sanctioned oil have been seized before in the Mediterranean. They have been seized before in other coasts. So this is not something that is only happening in Venezuela, and is not affecting the main oil trade of Venezuela that is non-sanctioned. For example, the vessels from Chevron have been non-touched, and this is more of an escalation towards the Venezuelan allies, like for example Cuba, that depends on this oil, than to the general revenues of Venezuela and to the oil trade.
So you'd expect to not see the U.S. focusing on Venezuelan oil exports rather than the alleged drug trafficking vessels we've seen them target in the past?
The United States government doesn't want to heavily disrupt oil traffic in general. One of the policies of the United States under Donald Trump is keeping oil prices low, and disrupting markets would be completely contrary to that policy. In fact, that is the reason why it was a sanctioned and shadow fleet vessel that was not attacked. The US government has all the tools to disrupt Venezuelan oil traffic. They haven't done it. They did it in 2019. So this needs to be taken under that context. It is not an attempt to fully control oil trade from Venezuela, because in general, Venezuela has given concessions on oil to the United States. We see it by the Chevron licenses. We see it by the Dragon project of VP. The reason here is trying to politically exert pressure on Maduro, so he agrees to the terms of Donald Trump.
Talking about pressure, Donald Trump says he doesn't rule out a ground invasion of the country. Is that just tough talk, or is he being serious?
Considering the current assets in the Caribbean, it seems like it's tough talk. Donald Trump loves to do this kind of high ball, hard play kind of game. And looking at the analysis of how many troops are in the Caribbean, how many assets there is not enough troops for an invasion of Venezuela. You would need around 50,000 troops, according to the Center of Strategic and Intelligence Studies, to invade Venezuela, and you would need 50,000 more to stabilize the country after the invasion. The United States currently has around 16,000, combining all the assets that it has in the Caribbean. So it is not enough. We need to take into account Venezuela is a big territory with a big population, and even though the military is in shambles due to divestment and corruption, it still has one of the most equipped militaries in Latin America. So it is a costly and dangerous adventure to try to go into an invasion. I don't think the United States will go into that.
That was Jesús Renzullo. Thank you so much.